Let's start today's video going over for loops. These are structures which allow you to iterate over items in a sequence. What I mean by that is that you can repeat the same command for as many times as you need. The way to write a for loop is like this. So you start with the for keyword, then you create a variable name. So I'm just going to create the word user just out of the top of my mind. And then in the sequence users, which is this list that I created previously. And then colon, one indentation to notify Python that whatever I write in this next line here is subjected to this for loop on top of it. And then I'm just gonna give it some set of instructions that I want to be repeated. And in this case, let me just print the user. So bear in mind that this user variable is something that I created here. I could name it I is a common variable to be used, and I would want to print I. This line here merely says that for each item I in this list users, do this. So when I run this code, as you can see, it loops over each item and it prints said item. Prints Aaron, Anna, Maria. You can nest inside this for loop other structures like an if-else statement, for example. So here is as you can see, I'm iterating over all the names in this list. And if the name starts with the letter A, then I'm going to print out this sentence, this string. And if not, then I'm going to print this string. So let me just run this code. And as you can see, because I have 3 names, I'm iterating over this list 3 times. And I print out the first name has the letter A. Then again, because it's Aaron, then again it's Anna, and then the third name is Maria, does not start with the letter A. You can also nest inside a for loop another for loop. And when I run this code, you can see here that I'm iterating over each user, and then inside this user first, I'm iterate over each element in it. And because this is a string, each letter is a character. Again, I created this variable name letter. I can name it whatever I want. I can name it something nonsensical. And I'm just referring to each piece of this user. And this user is each piece of the list. So when I print each letter, you can see here that I have the name Aaron, then Anna, and lastly, Maria. Now, before I move on, let me quickly show you the range function. This function creates a sequence of numbers up to 1 less than the number you have as a parameter. So for example, if I create a function like this, this range function will create the sequence 0, 1, 2, and 3. And because I can't just print this is not something that is printable. Let me just pass that into a list, and finally let me print that list. And when you can see, the range function created the sequence I mentioned earlier. If you pass 2 numbers inside these parameters, let's say 2 and 5, you're gonna get a sequence starting at number 2 but stopping at 1 number less than 5. So 2, 3, 4, as you can see here. Now, why am I showing this range function? Because it's frequently used to create a for loop. The way to do that would be simply to say for, let me create a variable I, and then in the range 5. And then let me print I. When I do this, you can see here that it creates the sequence 0, 2, 4. But why is this useful? Well, frequently you're gonna know how many times you want to iterate over something. So this is just practical. Now, while loops are a bit simpler. They execute something until the condition that started the loop evaluates to false. So let me give you an example of how that works. So here I created a while loop, and I have to start off the variable x that's going to work for the condition that I'm evaluating here. And the condition is while x is smaller than 10, do this. So the flow of the situation is x smaller than 10? Yes, x is equals 0. So print x. So it's going to print 0. Then it's going to increment x to 1. Is x smaller than 10? Yes, x is equal to 1. And then it's going to repeat the process until x is no longer smaller than 10. So when I run this code, you can see that what happens is exactly what I mentioned. It goes 0, 1 through 9. And you could test it out. If you don't increment x, meaning x is always going to be 0, we're going to run into a problem because we're always just going to keep printing 0, 0, and 0. And you might not be able to notice it, but the code is still running and it's always printing 0. So because this condition evaluates to true always, the code is just going to keep running. Now I'll just press Ctrl C to cancel any code running in our terminal, and let's hop into an exercise for about for loops. Okay, so collect a number x from the user and print the sum of all numbers from 1 to x, and make sure to use for loops to perform this operation. So for example, if the user types in number 5, you want to print out the sum 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5. So pause the video now, give it a shot, and I'll show you the solution in a sec. Okay, so the way to do that, well, the way that I devised, let me just create a variable sum, and initially the sum is going to be 0. So let me collect the user's input and save it in a variable x. Type something to the effect of what is the number, and just a reminder, the input function returns a string, so let me just convert that or cast that into an integer. And then what I want to do is I'm going to create a for loop, and in each iteration of this for loop I want to use inside this range function the starting at number 1, and then the last digit that I want to add to this operation is going to be x plus 1 colon to start this operation, and then I want to add to my sum each and all values of I. So then again, this is going to create a sequence from 1 until x, and I need to pass in x plus 1 because the second value in the range function excludes this value. So if it's, might be confusing you, but if x is a value 6, for example, I need to pass in 7 so that 6 is included in our range calculation. And then let me just finally print out the sum for I. Oh, I'm missing a keyword, in range. Sorry, you can see now that everything works. Let's run this code, and again, if I want to use number 5, then it's 15, because 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5, it's 9, 12, 14, 15. And if you want to check again, if you pass in 10 to this function, it should come out as 55. So let me run this code again. What is the number? 10, and then 55 is the sum. I hope you got it, and now let's hop into a second exercise. Okay, this is an easier one. Just print the first 10 natural numbers, first 10 integers from 1 to 10 using a while loop. Okay, pause the video now, give it a go, and I'll show you the solution in a little bit. Okay, you don't need to collect the information from the user. Let's just create a variable x, and then, as I mentioned on the example, while x is smaller or equal to 10, let's print x, and then after that, let's increment x by 1. And if you're thinking about it, you could have written 11 and then removing this equal sign here, while x is smaller than 11, and it will print from 1 to 10 as well. So let me just run the code, and you can see that all the numbers are printed. Well, here, there you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that's it for today. Don't forget to check the link on the description for more content about these structures, these loops. And thank you for watching.